Imperative care is accelerating the development of life-changing technologies to bring more care to more patients suffering from stroke and other devastating vascular diseases. Joining me today is the chairman and CEO of Imperative Care, Fred Khosravi. Fred, wonderful to have you on Floor Talk.
It's great to be here, Judy. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So I want to start off by talking about the company. Tell me about Imperative Care and your mission.
Imperative care is about the realities of a very important mission that we are executing on in a very disciplined way today, which is elevating care for a very devastating disease, of a very emergent and devastating disease that we generally call runaway clot. If it's in the brain, it's a stroke. If it's in the lungs, it's a pulmonary embolism. If it's in the heart, it's a heart attack. And if it's in the legs, it could lead to amputation. All of these diseases are actually born by a blood clot lodging in a vessel inside of some artery in the body, basically, and not allowing oxygen to get to that anatomy, basically, that artery serves. And it's a condition that's called ischemia. And it's called ischemic disease, if you will. So we have actually set out to create a very disciplined mission to transform the way runaway clot is treated, basically, with the caveat that time is the most important thing to treating runaway clot. Time is brain, time is lung, time is heart, time is leg. The time levels of emergency are different. It's seconds and minutes in the brain. It's minutes and hours in the lungs. And it's hours and days in the legs. But it's a devastating disease nevertheless. And when the patients actually get that disease, their life changes in a significant way. And you have to basically work with them to actually restore a new normal in their life. So in addition to elevating care with a very disciplined approach, and I'll talk a little bit about the company and what it's been doing over the last 4 years or so, we're also, I would say, Imperative Care is also about the promise of a future potential that could actually significantly move the needle on how patients are treated, not only in the US, but also around the world. Imperative is actually effectively focused on treatment of stroke with catheters that actually aspirate clot from the brain, and life-saving technologies that could actually do that within 10 to 15 to 20 minutes. The differentiation in our technology that we've actually brought together is transforming the time that it takes to actually treat the disease from 45 minutes to an hour and a half down to about 10 to 15 minutes, if you will. We believe that time improvement in being able to get the clot out leads to elevation of outcomes in patients. We've also done that in the legs. We're beginning to actually launch those products with our stroke products. We've been in the market for a little over 4 years. Since we entered the market, we've captured over 30% share of the ischemic stroke market. We're currently running at a revenue run rate of about a little over $130 million. And we expect that with our vascular business essentially getting to a point of scale with a new technology, time is everything in these procedures. So the innovation that we bring to the table is actually time. And we expect that within the next 2 years, the company is going to actually double in revenue. Very much of a benchmark level for the medical technology space, operational disciplines, where we have actually gone from gross margin levels of mid-40s about a year and a half ago now to around high 60s and low 70s. So that's the disciplined mission of the company for today. The promise of the future is that we need to actually provide better care to these patients who actually get runaway clot because their life changes. It's a devastating outcome, and they have to find a new normal. They require post-acute care, basically. So we're employing and investing in digital health to be able to help these patients from a recovery standpoint. But we also are one of the probably the biggest part of our mission is that these technologies that actually take out clot, that aspirate clot from patients basically through the vasculature, in the U.S. are only available to 1 out of 4 eligible patients. And we are working towards developing and employing AI, machine learning, robotics, automation to be able to actually make, as you pointed out, make more of this probably one of the most powerful treatments in medicine available to more patients through robotics.
Now, you recently had a funding round. So tell me, how will this accelerate your goals and your vision?
Moving the company from a focus on R&D and innovation to now to the point of scale. As I mentioned to you, the company expects to double over the course of the next 2 years in revenue. That means that our operational disciplines, our commercial disciplines have to be scaled. So a significant part of that funding is actually moving in the direction of scaling the company and beginning to prepare it for the back half of the decade.
And tell me, what does the future of imperative care look like? And what are you excited about?
I can tell you a story about a physician that I recently met where he was talking to me about our imperative care technologies. And as we were having the conversation, he made a reference to saying, it changed my life. And I thought he was talking about that metaphorically. So we talked a little bit, and I was moving on to another topic. And he said, hey, wait a minute. I told you it changed my life, and you didn't ask me how. And I said, I'm sorry. I thought you were saying it metaphorically. And he said, no, I'm not saying it metaphorically. He said about 3 years ago, when a stroke call would come, and I would get up in the middle of the night, because when a stroke call comes, you want to get up and go. You have an opportunity to save a life. Nobody will not take a stroke call. It doesn't matter when it is. He said when the stroke call would come in the middle of the night, I would have to, and my children would get up. These are young physicians. Children would get up and say, Daddy, when are you coming home? I didn't know what to tell them 3 years ago, because these procedures could take hours, 2 hours, and I would get stuck in the hospital. Today, with the advent of the Zoom stroke solution, which is our flagship product in stroke at Imperative Care, he said, when a stroke call comes, I tell my family it's going to take me as long as it takes to go get a carton of milk at this corner 7-Eleven and come home. That's how fast the procedure has become. So I can see a future effectively based on, if you look at that model, scaling that model to make that kind of care available to more than 80-90% of the population that's eligible for it. So one important point that I would have to caveat is that if you look at the 1 out of 4 patients, eligible patients who actually get these important technologies called thrombectomy catheters, basically, that development has actually happened over about 20 years. That means that if we go by the same pattern of how this medical technology has developed, it could take another 40 to 50 years for 80-90% of the population to have access to it. We just believe that that is not acceptable. We need to be able to actually treat these clots. We need to treat them quickly and be able to save a lot of lives in the process. And we need to make it available to more patients, not only in the US, but also globalize it.
All right. Well, Fred, it's been wonderful to talk with you. Thanks for joining me on Floor Talk today.
Thank you so much for the wonderful interview.